All right, welcome to the Rival Sports Podcast, episode 23, another NFL edition here. We are back, but it's with a bit of a different cast and crew this time. Greg had some work complications and couldn't make it, so we have our good friend Ben filling in with me and Al. Ben, how you doing? Welcome to the first ever Ben Neary edition of the Rival Sports Podcast.
Thank you very much. I'm excited.
Perfect. You and I have podcasted before. You and I had our own soccer podcast, so you shouldn't be as uncomfortable as Al was his first time doing this.
Yeah, I threw up every 5 minutes.
Still refuses to be on camera too. But
I said some pretty stupid things, so
you know what? We all have those. That's what makes for good listens, right? When you say things like Harry Kane's not good at soccer, that'd be like saying Tom Brady's not a good football player, something along those lines. Legitimately.
And then he wins the Golden Boot at the World Cup.
So basically, Ben has some bad takes, but that's what we're here for. We're here for the good takes, we're here for the bad takes, and we're here to forget the good takes, and we're here to never forget the bad takes. But as it stands, we'll jump into the football talk, and we'll get back to why Ben was our pick to come on here, because he does have a little bit of insight into something that's a hot topic in the NFL. But we'll tease that till the end. We're going to start with a game that kicked off week 4, and that was the Vikings and the Rams. It was in LA, and it was before the season started. It was supposed to be one of those marquee games of the season, an actual good Thursday night game for once, and it lived up to that despite the teams being in two different directions. At the time, the Vikings entered 1-1-1, and the Rams entered 3-0, I guess. And it was an old school shootout, wasn't it?
Yeah, there was no defense in this game, which is kind of surprising because both teams have a good defense, but offense, like both quarterbacks were killing it.
Yeah.
It ended 38-31 for the Rams to go to 4-0. Kirk Cousins in the game was 36 for 50 for 422 yards and 3 touchdowns, and he was by a big margin the worst of the two quarterbacks.
Which is insane.
Jared Goff went 26 for 33 for 465 yards and 5 touchdowns. Todd Gurley had 1 receiving touchdown. Robert Woods had 1. Brandon Cooks had 1. And Cooper Kupp had 2 plus 162 yards. Cooks, Woods, and Kupp were all over 100 receiving yards. Gurley was at 73 receiving yards, but also rushed for 83. It was pretty much... It was just a good old-fashioned shootout. It was fun to watch. If I was not invested in a team in this game, I would have loved it. I am a Vikings fan, so I hated it, and it was hard to watch at times. But it's kind of, I think this is kind of what the NFL is trending towards. Teams being closer to each other than you may think, this game was supposed to be good regardless, but two teams, quote-unquote good defenses who allowed 30-plus points each team, and quarterbacks went off. I think that's what you're going to see going forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to say, I think the Rams could be like a dynasty in the making here.
Yes.
They're insanely good right now. And I know it's only 4 games into the season, so they were good last year as well, but this is like a new level.
I saw someone said that their wide receiving core could be the best in the league, and Mohamed Sanu put a bunch of crying, laughing faces on it as a comment.
Yeah, Mohamed Sanu can keep his emojis to himself, but Al, I kind of agree. Like this team, young quarterback who cut his teeth in the league for the last couple of years and is starting to look really composed. Young coach, youngest coach in the league, who has a good rapport with his players as of right now. Dominant running back, dangerous multiple weapons when it comes to wide receiver targets, and their defensive line that has Aaron Donald and Ndamukong Suh is insane. Like that is the most terrifying defensive line, I think.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good, and their DBs are really good as well.
DBs, yeah.
Obviously, they didn't have a great game against Minnesota, but that was kind of an outlier compared to what they're capable of, at least.
And Minnesota's a good team offensively as well, despite some of the inconsistencies this year. They've been, on paper, they're a team that's dangerous, good quarterback, good wide receivers.
Yeah, no one's been able to stop Minnesota's passing game this year yet.
I mean, other than the Bills.
I mean, the Bills did beat them, but I wouldn't say they shut them down.
No, I think Thielen still had over 100 yards in that game. But actually, that's a good segue there. I think this game, there's not too much you can say about it. It was fun to watch, and like I said, I had to put my my fanship aside because it was just a really entertaining game. And we can move forward here and go to the next NFC North game, and that is the Packers and the Bills. And people didn't really know what to expect going into this game. Green Bay was probably 2 weeks ago going to sit Aaron Rodgers and just let Deshaun Kaiser step in and steamroll the Bills. But the Bills start Josh Allen. He runs all over the Minnesota defense, and now Green Bay needs their quarterback to step up. Al, were you nervous at all going into this game as a Packers fan? Did it feel like a trap game?
I wasn't nervous until Buffalo beat Minnesota, and then I was like, okay, so obviously this team is like an actual NFL team, surprisingly. But then, no, they're as bad as we thought, I think.
And yeah. Green Bay was also coming off of a loss to the Redskins, correct?
Yeah, so I mean, I was definitely a little scared going into it. But then, like, even by halftime, it was pretty obvious when
16-0.
When the Bills had like 60 yards of offense or something. It's like, okay, like that's the Bills I remember.
Yeah, Ben, you were gonna say something there?
No, I just remember like one of the last drives of the game Buffalo had. Al and I were watching, and they ended up losing 18 yards on 3 plays. An
average of -6 yards a play.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're a weird team. Josh Allen's going to be good. He's got a lot of talent. They should just draft all offensive linemen until they can insulate this kid, because I just feel bad for him. But by the way,
just get a bunch of players that don't quit at halftime as well.
Yeah, I mean they won after that, so maybe that was like the galvanizing they needed. But they have Andre Holmes and Tywan Jones on their team. I feel like those guys are 40 years old each, but maybe I'm mistaken. The Packers improved to 2-1-1. The Bills fall to 1-3. Aaron Rodgers didn't. He got hit a couple times in the game, but he didn't. It wasn't all that much of a movement game for him. Like, he didn't get chased around in the pocket too much, which was good for Green Bay's sake.
Yeah, he did have one good rush though, where he went 15 yards and actually looked healthier than he has.
Is that when he slid on his brace and had to like pick the grass out of it afterwards?
It might have been that one. I do remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was near the red zone too, so dangerous to go hurtling towards the goal line.
Aaron Jones looked great.
Aaron Jones looks like a running back that they can build around. For the first time they've had a running back since who, Al?
Amon Green?
My God. Something that's crazy is Aaron Jones had 11 carries. Jamal Williams had 11 carries, who were 2 running backs. I want to stress their position. They're both running backs. They're still giving Ty Montgomery 5 carries in this game.
Yeah, let's give our wide receiver some time still.
I guess he's safely behind Devontae Adams, Geronimo Allison, and Jimmy Graham, and whoever the hell Marquise Valdez-Scantling is, who had one catch for 38 yards.
Came out of nowhere.
In the receiving game, Montgomery had a couple big catches, 2 for 56 total yards.
Yeah.
But Devontae Adams and Geronimo Allison are pretty damn impressive, are they not?
Yep, they're really proving their worth now, and like Adams is just so good. His like cuts off the line, and he's a little bigger than you expect to when you actually see him out there. I don't know, he's a physical force.
And I hate to admit it, but the patience they showed with Devontae Adams to wait and give him chances, and basically like they weren't contending for the last 3 years. Mm-hmm. So to not blow their load early on him and just ship him out is really, really impressive when it comes down to Mike McCarthy and the coaching staff that he has there, because they could clearly see something in him.
Yeah.
And then a huge vote of confidence in him to move Jordy Nelson and stick with him this year and have him be the workhorse. And it's paying off for them because he averaged 10 yards per carry, or 10 yards per catch rather, this game. But
yeah, And he also has the most touchdowns in the league since 2016, I believe.
And I mean, if you said take the name Devontae Adams, everyone said Aaron Rodgers #1 wide receiver, and it makes complete sense. But Devontae Adams, like, not being a fresh face rookie that was supposed to be coming out of college and be amazing. He had the downs first, but the patience to stick with them is impressive. And now you see Geronimo Allison, who has, I'll just say, the best name in the NFL. You have him as
undrafted, I believe, too.
Same with Adam Thielen. It's like these guys, you give them volume, you give them opportunities, they can impress you. You have Jimmy Graham, who caught, was it his first touchdown or no?
First touchdown that actually counted, yes.
Okay, so Jimmy Graham gets his first touchdown, and then now all of a sudden you have Aaron Jones, who can be that sort of bell cow, workhorse, some other farm animal, mud pig, that can carry the ball for you, 11 plus times. He could have taken all of Jamal Williams' carries too.
Mm-hmm. Jones made a huge block in the fourth quarter, actually.
Yeah,
on that one toss, that guy caught for 38 yards. Aaron Jones picked up a huge block, actually, to make that pass happen.
Yep, we were talking about that.
This is why you sort of stick with your guys.
He had to go off the sidelines afterwards. He was not feeling well.
Okay, guys, we need to talk about something here in this division, and that something is the Chicago Bears. Ooh. Now, the Chicago Bears are 3-1 and leading the division, and that makes me sad. And
so sad.
Mitch Trubisky threw 5 first-half touchdowns against the Buccaneers, who don't have a good defense, but usually have the ball on offense long enough to restrict teams from doing that. He threw 5 first-half touchdowns, which was, I think, a Bears record.
Yep.
I don't like this. This doesn't feel right to me. Mitch Trubisky's not that good. First of all, he threw 6 touchdowns. On the entire game, he only had 354 yards. So there seems to be a discrepancy there, which basically means he's doing those little Patrick Mahomes goal line passes where they're like 1 yard in front of him, and it's basically a run play. He did that a couple times. He did that to Tariq Cohen, Trey Burton, even. Like, they were close passes. Mm-hmm. But are we buying the Chicago Bears?
No.
Mitch Trubisky, like, is he?
No.
Ben, as a complete outsider to the division, because Al and I are kind of swallowed up in this, what do you make? What's your initial reaction when I say to you, what are the Chicago Bears?
Right now, all I can think of is Khalil Mack.
Which
I just think of their defense, basically. And I think that's what would carry them more so than their offense right now.
And that's a good point, because I think that Khalil Mack he's someone who balances out the team, because they had weapons, like a good rush game, some impressive wide receivers, especially picking up Allen Robinson. But it was like, okay, we'll score 30 points. They're going to score 60. But then you put in a player who is better defensively than his entire former team. Yep. And it balances out. Like, Khalil Mack makes the Bears a dual threat team, and I don't think they deserve it. I'll just say that. But, that defense held Ryan Fitzpatrick to 126 yards. It got Jameis Winston back into the game, who's now going to be the starter next week for the Buccaneers, which I think is insane, but whatever. I don't know, man. Like, the Bears seem to cause problems for a lot of teams. I don't think when this season pans out, they're going to be the next. Like, they're not going to win the division or anything, but it just seems so odd to me.
I think, like, Adam, I think you and I are also so used to the Bears and the Lions being in the bottom of the division. It's like it's been a fight for Minnesota and Green Bay since I was a kid, basically.
For like a decade, at the better part of a decade.
So maybe, like, we're just not used to this yet, seeing an actual good Bears team. And I know they went to the Super Bowl the one year, but that was literally the only year they were good.
Here's something, and I want both of your guys' opinion on this. In their next 5 games, tell me how many wins they have out of this. Dolphins, let me see here. So, home Dolphins, away Patriots, I'm messing this up. Home Dolphins, away Patriots, away Jets, home Bills, away Lions. I think that they win 4 of those games.
I was just going to say, they could win 4.
I think the only game that they lose is either to Miami or the Patriots.
Yeah. And the Dolphins looked real human against the Patriots this week. So
yeah. I actually bet on Miami, so fuck me.
Me too, dude. I had a couple parlays busted by that. Also, the Steelers fucked me, but we'll get to that. But yeah, like the Bears could get away with it. Then if you look at their next 5 after that, you have them away at the Vikings, home to the Lions, home to the Giants, away to the Rams, and away to the Packers. So then they fall back to earth. Maybe.
Yeah.
It's going to be a battle for wild card, though, it looks like.
But like even still, like they could beat the Vikings. I have no confidence in this team right now. They've been poor 2 weeks in a row defensively. And then they finished the season in the last game of the regular season against the Vikings, which could be a very impactful game.
Oh, 100%.
So last time we talked about football, we basically were dead set on the AFC North being the most like unpredictable division. I think in 1 week this has drastically changed to now the NFC North is the most unpredictable up in the air division.
Yeah, it like, and I don't know, are the Lions okay? Probably
no, they
not.
lost again this week. I think that they beat the Patriots, and that was a fun story. But they lost to the Cowboys, who are not really an impressive team. And when you're playing the Cowboys, you have to basically just shut down Ezekiel Elliott, and he rushed for 152 yards and then caught 88 yards. So
yeah, so they failed that game plan, and they paid for it.
Yeah, I still think Kerryon Johnson, I think he's going to be a good running back in the league, and he'll actually kind of, if they can show the patience that the Packers showed with Devontae Adams to him and basically give him runs, give him chances, and give him opportunities to catch the ball. I know they have Theo Riddick, who's a really good receiving back and really good at yards after catching and contact. But give this guy Kerryon Johnson give him like some volume of passing plays and play action passes and everything, because if you have a running back who can play three downs for you, you become a little bit less of a predictable team, because every time Theo Riddick comes on the field, every defense is like, oh well, they're going to dump it off to their running back here, or like,
yeah, exactly.
We can probably rush right through this running back who's going to be looking for is going to be available for a check down or something like that. So I think
that's the Lions' problem right now too, though. Every team knows what they're going to do before they do it.
Yeah, and if you don't have Calvin Johnson down the sidelines, like everyone knew they were going to throw the ball to Calvin Johnson every single time, but you just can't cover him because he was like a spider. So now they don't have that. I mean, Golden Tate's great and Marvin Jones is great, but they're not Calvin Johnson. So Calvin Johnson. I'm saying Calvin. Either way. The Lions are still...
Golden Tate's little high step into the end zone?
Yeah, Golden Tate's a little bit too high on himself, I think.
Yeah.
He's a good... I mean, there's no taking away from him. He's a good player. He had 2 touchdowns in this game, 132 receiving yards on 8 receptions. That's a great stat line. I just, like... I don't know.
Win the game.
Yeah, I think on a good team, he's a wide receiver too, so... Kenny Golladay, on the other hand. But anyways, there were 2 things, in the words of Curtis Blow, these are the breaks, 2 massive injuries that happened in this week. The first one, which is maybe a little bit more controversial, with the whole, tensions within the league between players and teams, was Earl Thomas breaking his leg. Earl Thomas was coming into this season off of a holdout, I believe. He showed up, not against his will, but unhappy, and now hurt himself. And because he showed up and hurt himself, he's now like the poster boy for never ending your holdouts. I don't know. He was carted off flipping off the Seattle Seahawks, his own team's sidelines, which is a real classy move. Which is like all of his teammates that are like, brother, we'll play for you, all this stuff. And then, like, this guy's getting carted off the field, just flipping you off. So, I don't know.
Yeah, as if it's their fault.
Le'Veon Bell commented on a post, I think it was from SportsCenter, saying, quote, "I'll continue to be the bad guy for us," basically saying that commenting on the comments after the game by one of Earl Thomas's teammates saying, if you don't show up, you're a bad guy. If you show up and get hurt, then you shouldn't have shown up. It's a lose-lose, basically.
Bobby Wagner.
That was Bobby Wagner, okay. Is there ever gonna be like clarity on this? Or I feel like these guys are so hard done by playing a sport that they love, getting paid millions of dollars. But again, that's my perspective on it, because they have a completely different worldview, actually taking hits, doing all this stuff, and being an NFL player. That's a different context that I don't work within. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, me and Ben were talking about this earlier, and we have a bit differing opinions on it, because I'm kind of more on the team side, saying I agree with them. They shouldn't have to give a long-term contract, whereas Ben's more on the player side, saying he has a right to hold out and he shouldn't have to play or whatever, right?
I think it's more so just like, they obviously get paid a ton of money, but they only get paid that much money for a certain amount of years, and then they have to use that money for the rest of their lives and deal with the consequences of playing in the league and everything that's going to come with it.
But I just think there's no gun to their head making them play.
Pardon?
There's no gun to their head making them play football.
Yeah, no, absolutely, yeah. And
I think one of Al's points too was they're holding out on contracts that they put pen to paper on and signed.
Yeah, they signed. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it isn't so much the Earl Thomas contract that I was talking more about, like Le'Veon Bell's. Like, I can understand like Earl Thomas's and stuff and everything, but Le'Veon Bell's to me just seems like his makes so much more sense, because his is only like a 1-year deal, and in his position, like whether he's gonna get the ball, and he's either gonna be hit or he's gonna score, and he doesn't score as often as he gets hit.
Yeah.
So he's basically like, they could just, knowingly that they only have him for a year, they could just run the ball like 30 times a game and just watch him break his body, basically, and then be like, all right, see you never. That's my thing. Whereas Earl Thomas, like, is a safety, like it's very rare that something like that would happen.
Yeah, and he had a pre-existing leg injury, so people were talking about this being likely, but like, I don't know, it's not. I don't know how likely it is that you'll break your leg again. He's finished the game with 3 tackles and 1 assist, so not bad. But
the week before, he had a big game though.
Yeah, he's like a make or break player on defense. He's one of those like,
but
hang your hat on guys.
If I could just counter Ben's point for a second about Le'Veon Bell, they did offer him a long-term contract with just a cap or like a salary that he wasn't willing to take, right?
I'm pretty sure he was only offered the franchise tag.
I could be wrong, but I thought they offered the franchise tag when he wouldn't accept their long-term deal. But might want to double check that, because that's what I thought.
SB Nation reported, this was on July 17th, Le'Veon Bell didn't get a new deal and is almost definitely leaving the Steelers in 2019. And he's locked into a 1-year deal at $14.5. The Steelers reportedly offered Bell a 5-year deal that would have paid him around $30 million over the first 2 years of the contract, with a guaranteed $14.5 million this year on the tag. So he essentially turned down, I think that the total value of the contract would have been $70 million.
Yeah, but it's not guaranteed.
It's not a fully guaranteed contract, no.
Yeah.
Which,
that's what I was looking for.
Yeah, which is a bargaining chip and everything, but here's my thought about it. The fact that they're allowed to hold out on their contracts into the season is what screws everything up, because having a week 10 deadline and then having someone show up 10 weeks into their team season and being able to not have any consequences other than the forfeited money, which apparently is so important to them that they forfeit it for 10 weeks, which makes no sense to me. But
no, they don't forfeit it. They get it.
Don't they forfeit every week's wages?
No. So if he comes in at week 10 for like the next like 6 games he plays, he makes like $2.5 million a game.
They essentially back pay him for the games he missed.
Yeah.
Which is that's ridiculous. Then, in my opinion, and I know this is just like waxing poetic on the holdout structure. As soon as if you don't report for the week 1 game because of a contract holdout, you should have your contract voided. You have to skip the year, and you don't get paid your salary for that year.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that because you signed the contract, I understand that there's different things change and everything, but you signed the contract, so be responsible for that at least.
I think he was a little bit more upset because he already signed the franchise tag last year.
Yeah,
had a
that is
yeah.
true.
So like to get it again, he's like, well, if I just break my body now and I'm out, then I don't have any money. He's like, I already did it once for the team.
Now, here's something that maybe he could have done. Look at what Kawhi Leonard did when he didn't want to play for the Spurs. He basically said, I don't trust your medical staff. I'm going to go get my own second opinion. Had a doctor say that he's not fit to play and sat out the entire season.
Yeah, yeah.
And you can't really turn it down.
So he is kind of doing that though, because if he only comes back in week 10, he's playing 6 games. Even if they run him 60 times a game, he's not getting hit as many times as he did for 16 games.
Apparently, there's reports now that Le'Veon Bell is going to report week 7 and doesn't believe that they're taking. Sorry?
It's their bye week. Yeah,
he's going to join the team on their bye week, basically give himself 2 weeks to prepare for a game. But he also doesn't think the team's serious about trading him, which I think is.
At the same time, though, James Conner has done very well in the meantime.
James Conner's proved a lot of people wrong that thought this was Lev Bell over the offensive line. And I think James Conner's a talent, so you have to give that to him as well. And I think Le'Veon Bell's an elite running back. But there's a lot of credit to be going around here. The offensive coordinator for different schemes, the wide receivers for blocking downfield, Big Ben for being deceptive, as much as a big man can be. I don't know, man.
I think it plays to Pittsburgh's hand though. I think it's a good time for them to try and trade Le'Veon Bell and get something out of it. Especially
if he is reporting now, or if he's going to report.
Yeah.
You all of a sudden the value goes up a little bit here. I was thinking before this season started, or before this season got 4 weeks deep, that Green Bay would have been a good target for him. But I don't think you want to mix anything this volatile into that team. So I don't know where he could go.
I've heard and I've seen that he likes nearly every single post that the Colts organization puts out.
Yeah, he always does like the eye emojis and stuff.
Yeah.
He has a crush on the Colts, but apparently the Jets are in on him too.
That would be amazing. If he went to the Jets and they just run him 60 times a game and he breaks his body there instead.
That would be perfect.
And they still lose because they're still a bad team.
Mm.
That's the thing. They're not a running back away from being a contender. So what would be the point?
A side note that me and Al talked about this weekend that would be hilarious is if Buffalo ended up going on a huge win streak after that win against Minnesota, and then Vontae Davis missed out on going to the Super Bowl.
Unretired.
But then we were saying on the last game he's gonna be sitting there in the locker room when everyone comes in. He's like, "Hey guys, we're ready to play, right?"
I'm back, and they start losing.
Yeah.
Okay, we hinted about this earlier, but we're gonna jump to a different topic here, and we'll wrap it up. Try and wrap it up a little bit early. Depends on how late we go here, but this topic is basically about the former most up in the air division, the AFC North, now being pretty much in the hands of 2 teams as much as it could be as in 4 weeks, and that's in the hands of the Bengals and in the Baltimore Ravens. The Steelers lose 26-14 to the Ravens, and it kind of seems like they're fading. They have all the players, but they just don't seem to all be clicking consistently, and their defense doesn't seem to be able to get stops when they need it, despite having TJ Watt be a pretty dominant player. Does it seem like the Ravens and Bengals can sort of start running away with this here?
I think the Bengals can. Baltimore, I have a hard time really believing in Joe Flacco at all.
The elite quarterback that he is.
Yeah. I don't know. I've always really liked AJ Green, and
we watched him win the game.
Tyler Boyd as well is awesome. I remember I drafted him in our fantasy league when he was a rookie, so I got high hopes there. And
they're going to be without Tyler Eifert now for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I don't think that's a deal breaker though.
In this, they beat the Falcons by 1 point. Eifert had 4 catches, 38 yards, and 1 touchdown. He's a really big target. He's like a carbon copy of Kelsey, basically. Big, thick guy, but and he looks slow, but he's got really big, powerful strides. So he's covering a lot more ground than you think he is. And a big character guy, I think too. I think he was really well liked. And he's battled injuries. He had a lot of concussion problems in his past, so he's battled a lot of injuries and come back to be super effective. And now he gets another massive injury layoff here. But why do you not think the Ravens can hold up the same sort of structure that the Bengals do. They did beat divisional rivals in the Steelers, and let me just pull it up here. The Ravens are, I believe, also 3-1 on the season, much like the Bengals are. So why are the Ravens not?
For me, they just don't really have anyone dynamic. Like, no one really jumps out at you when you look at their roster. The last few years, they haven't been very good at all. So a little recency bias there, but I don't know. I mean, I guess you could say the Bengals haven't proven much either, but
well, the Bengals have proven they can be really, really solid in the regular season and then just crumple.
Yeah.
But something that bothers me with the Ravens is that they have a bunch of players on this team. They have like a bunch of number twos. They have a huge amount of number twos and no one willing to take the lead. So running back, Alex Collins rushes 11 times for 42 yards. Javorius Allen rushes 10 times for 30 yards. Lamar Jackson got in the game, rushed 4 times for 17 yards. And then in the receiving game, John Brown had a massive game here. 3 catches, 116 yards, 1 touchdown. But even still, he only had 3 catches. Yeah. Willie Snead had 6. Max Williams with 2 X's had 5. Nick Boyle had 3. Crabtree had 3. Chris Moore had 1. Javorius Allen had 2. Tim White 1. Mark Andrews 2. DeLance Turner 1. Alex Collins 1. There's so many different players getting in on this. And the positive thing is that it makes them unpredictable because you don't know where the ball is going to go. But
I mean, there's nothing wrong with being able to spread the ball around, but like you said, there's not that one guy who can
there's no one to rely on.
Take over. Exactly.
Could John Brown be that guy?
I mean,
he was
if he
hidden
could,
in Arizona.
Why hasn't he already?
He was behind Larry Fitzgerald for the last couple of years, and maybe that was a good thing for him. But let me just have a look here. So the Ravens have beat the Bills, lost to the Bengals. They beat the Broncos and they beat the Steelers. So I don't know.
It's pretty good.
So pretty good. I'm just having a look here. John Brown had 5 catches for 86 yards against the Broncos and against the Bengals. Let me pull it up here. My computer is being slow. I just kind of want to see the consistency on him here. Also, with Tyler Eifert out, look for Tyler Kroft or CJ Uzoma to pick up if you're looking for a tight end. They're probably going to be getting a lot more volume now. Let me see here. John Brown, 4 catches, 92 yards, and a touchdown against the Bengals.
So he's been pretty consistently getting close to the 100-yard mark at least.
And he's getting in the end zone too, which I think catching footballs and getting into the end zone is a lot harder than I give wide receivers credit for, because it's not how deep is it? 10 yards?
Sounds right.
All right, and let's see. John Brown had 3 catches, 44 yards, and a touchdown in the season opener against the Bills. So he's got 3 touchdowns on the season, piled up some yards. He's looking all right.
Yeah, I just don't have any faith. But I mean, their net points is plus 58, which is really good.
But they beat the Bills 47-3.
That's actually second in the league next to the Rams that I can see right now.
I am excited by Lamar Jackson in the future, though. That'll be interesting.
I think the longer he waits, the better he'll be as a player, though. He's one of those guys who needs to sort of sit and learn.
Yeah. But that's the thing, though, is that he can take off and run if he really needs to.
He's got the dual threat, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. Like, let him learn from this elite quarterback over here for a little while. And then hopefully it should be exciting. Like, I feel like the next couple of years, like, the Ravens could draft, like, offensive threats to help him out, really, you know?
Yeah, their defense is solid as it usually is. And, yeah, they can sort of slowly start to build around him while giving him more reps.
Yeah, exactly.
Ben, what do you say we finish here talking to you about something that's you have some experience with, and something that is taking over for the last 2 seasons, now this season and last, taking over the topics list of the NFL, kicking field goals. You kicked field goals in high school. You kicked a massive one, didn't you? What was your longest kick?
In a practice, I've hit a 65-yard field goal.
And how many steps back were you?
For that, I was 5.
And
Usually,
Go
if
ahead.
I was kicking anything within 30 yards, I would only take one step. It blows my mind when these guys miss field goals. It blows my mind. I missed one kick in 4 years, and it was a terrible snap, and it was the first time this guy was holding the ball for me in a game, and I totally blame him, not me.
So I guess pressure probably factors into it too.
But it's not that hard. I
I
don't know.
so when they miss, the announcers always say, "Oh, like they pushed it, or like they're trying too hard, or whatever." When
Yeah.
you watch the guys who take their time, it's nerve wracking because it looks like they're gonna get their kicks blocked, but they also tend to put it through the middle of the uprights because they're actually like steering their kicks and aiming them and following
Yeah.
through, and they're not just trying to blast it as hard as they can in a straight direction because we're not kicking circles. They are oblong. They are going to take turns and everything.
Yeah,
Um,
that is the one thing I will say. Like sometimes though, like in the NFL, like you'll watch a kick and like I'll call it immediately. I'm like, oh, it's good, and then it'll just take a weird turn to like the right or left or something, and then just veer off to the side, and like that is not like on the kicker in my opinion. Really, like that's like it's kind of hit something in the air. Or there's a gust or something because you can basically tell as soon as the ball is kicked whether it's going in or not. Like it's pretty obvious, especially as the kicker. Like if you just watch him instead, he should know. The only time that he's really going to be up in the air about it is if it's a long kick and he's just waiting to see whether it gets the distance or not.
and I find it interesting that on long kicks, I know it has to go farther, so you have to take some loft off of it, but they really do knock the loft down. It's like a line drive kick that like just barely
Yeah.
makes it over the bottom bar. Prater is pretty good at that in Detroit. He can take a lofty one and turn it into a line drive.
Yeah. You want to see what a good kicker is right now? Justin Tucker is just unbelievable.
That guy's automatic.
Yeah.
He's one player who is happily taking his franchise tag season after season in Baltimore.
Yeah. I think it's a little bit different though. See, that's the same thing. I would say like I think as much as Earl Thomas wanted like a longer contract, he would take that money for a year kind of thing. Like
Oh yeah,
he's not in a
totally.
position like a running back. That's basically what I'm trying to say. As a kicker, you have an easy life. You
Ben,
got
you
yeah.
going back on topics that we talked about half an hour ago really makes you the perfect fill-in for Greg on this podcast.
Yeah, that's exactly. Sorry, Greg.
That's Greg's
Actually,
move.
I don't know if you guys saw, but there was a kicker on Saturday, a collegiate kicker, and the snap was terrible, but the kicker started to run up as the ball was snapped, like normal kind of thing. And the guy placed the snap. The kicker was up on his left leg, hopped backwards, and then just followed through with his right and still kicked the point after. That's how easy it is to kick a field goal. And
Wow.
people can't do it. It blows. To me, the one thing that I still don't understand is how in the NFL, all these kickers, they all take like 3 steps back and 2 steps to the left, or 3 back and 1 to the left or right, depending if they're left-footed or right-footed. When you're 25 yards out, you can stand there and just swing your right leg and kick the field goal. You don't need that distance. So it doesn't make any sense to me. I don't get it, because that way you can ensure that you have that extra like second and a half that it would take for you to run up to make sure the ball is exactly where you want it. I don't get it.
I guess maybe it's to do with timing of the snap and the hold, making sure you get enough time. But the way you're telling this to me, these guys are all losers. So
It blows my mind every time. It blows my mind.
well, on that note, there, guys, I think we should call it. Ben, appreciate you coming on here on short notice and talking some football with us. We'll look forward to doing that in the future if you're up for it. And as for Al and I, we'll be back at the end of the week to talk hockey. NHL season starts on
Hope
Wednesday.
you'll be watching Wednesday. Yeah, it's going to be a good one.
Exactly. So until then, thank you for listening to the Rival Sports Podcast.